You happy now?
Only thing you say is you say that I know. Only thing is you behave like you don't really know what you think, but it shows.
Well, hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Showrunner podcast. We are dealing with post-production. What is post-production? And I have two very fantastic guests here with me to help me get through this. We've got Dave Huband, who is a post-production supervisor. Recently worked on SkyMed, working on a cool show right now. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say anything about it, but also worked on big shows like Orphan Black. So thank you, Dave, for being
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and we've got Alison Duke, who is a director, a writer, producer. Great films like Bam Bam, The Sister Nancy Story, Michelle Ross, Unknown Icon, working on For the Culture, a lot of other things. So I'm very excited to have you both here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Should be fun.
So one of the first to getting into post-production, one of the reasons why I like what we're about to get into is because so many showrunners have heard the phrase, we'll fix it in post. No, don't do that. Don't say those things. People often know about prep or pre-production. People often know about production, but there's not a lot of conversation about post-production, especially for the showrunners who start off as writers, because they're not usually a part of that process. And I find that when we've done the boot camp in the past, when Dave has come in and talked to our writers about what post-production is, a lot of them have been like, it's blowing my mind. Like, there's so much more that happens after I pressed send on my little script to the producers. So yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy this ride through the world of post-production. One of the first questions I have is just to demystify the process. When does post-production start? Especially for you, Dave. When does it start?
In actual fact, I'm probably one of the first people they call, even when the show's like in early stages, because they generally need to figure out when finals are going to be masters, et cetera, are going to be delivered, and that's all goes into the contract that they have to pull together before they even start the production office. The producers generally are bugging me for schedules very early in the game.
Yeah, because you're going to make the show, but then at the same time, you're going to need someone who understands the post process to deliver a schedule that works with the broadcaster so you can deliver your show at a certain time.
Yeah. Yes, and then as I need certain number of parameters as far as what the show is going to entail to help schedule all that. So
you can't just do it blindly. You can't just be like, oh, we're going to magic this together.
No, that's how they make the budget. You would think it would be a little more clear cut, but no, it's an early thing for me. And then you kind of deliver that and sit back for a month or two. So,
and we've had the line producers coming in. And one of the things that was interesting about the line producers, we talked to Jim Corsten and Jim Morrow, who you've worked with Jim Corsten before.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we talked about was like, when does the line producer job kind of finish? And they kind of talked about like them kind of stepping back when you get to post and letting the post-production supervisor kind of take over. So it's almost like they're handing the baton to you when post-production starts, but of course you've been there throughout the whole process.
Correct.
And this is one of those things where it's like I realize there's so much more into post-production supervising than just like keeping an eye on the edits. Like there's just...
it's to some degree equal to like a production manager during production. Just in that you're overseeing literally all the steps in post, from the point that it's shot. Like once those cards come out of the camera, it kind of becomes my problem.
Yeah.
From that point to the point till the end when you deliver the final masters. So. And
one of the things you also help with is something that I'm sure Alison has to deal with, which is like making sure you hire the right editors that you're going to be working with at the jump. Like you have to have these people in getting ready to go before you even start shooting anything usually.
Yeah, especially in the unscripted world, there's certain editors we like to work with, and because they're fabulous, they're always booked. And if you think about post on even a feature documentary, post has moved anywhere from like 6 months to a year, over a year in terms of editing, right? Yeah. So, especially high profile films, you're spending a longer time with, on these films with bigger budgets, etc. So you're trying to lock in your editor, like as soon as you get the green light, or even before, like I have something coming down the pipe. Are you available in 2027? That kind of thing. If we're shooting now, right? That kind of thing, and also marrying that person with a good assistant editor, or if they're going to bring in their own assistant editing team, if you have budget for that, and then also your post supervisor is so key with everything. Just seeing who's available. There's a whole bunch of people that you want to hire that have to deal with post in prep.
Yeah, there's a lot of work, and it's so funny because you just talked about like how much time goes into post.
Yeah.
The show that I just worked on, Hate the Player, we were in production. We were in prep for like 4 or 5 weeks. We were in production for 19 days, and we've been in post for the last 6 months. So it just kind of goes to show, and we're not done. We're not done yet. We'll be done in a month or so. But it just goes to show like that is there's a process there. It's not to be, don't, when you say things like fix it in post, it really does. What do you think when you hear that?
It can be ambitious. You can't, there's limitations, of course, but I've seen many attempts at trying to fix it in post, and it's not always successful.
But with fixing it in both, for you, especially in the unscripted world, it's a lot of working in post, making sure that you kind of make things work.
Yeah, it's a lot of working in post, but it's like fix what in post? That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
What are you fixing? If you're thinking about, if your sound is, especially unscripted, if your sound is horrible all throughout, is like, as soon as, if I'm on a shoot and the sound is bad in one shoot, I get it all tested before, so I know if I can even use it. Like, I'm not playing around, and I'm not waiting till,
because you don't want to do more days and then all of a sudden you find out nothing's usable.
Yeah, I'd rather go back to the person, do the interview or whatever again. Also, like, graphics you can fix in post because that's always a work in process. Like, not everything can be fixed in post. I would say, only like maybe a couple things.
Yes, for sure.
Graphics and credits.
Oh, credits is going to be the last half
I know.
hour of this podcast.
Oh my gosh. Why did I open that can of worms?
We're not going to go on the credits. We're going to wait on credits for a little bit. One of the things that people hear about but don't know that much about until they actually get into the world is they hear things like the word dailies. Like, like, oh, have you checked the dailies? Have you looked at the dailies? Look at these dailies. And no one, especially the showrunners who are coming in, a lot of writers don't know, like, they hear it, but they don't know what it means. Can you just kind of break down what dailies are for people who are working on these shows?
Yeah, no, for sure. Dailies are basically, they take the video and the audio that was recorded on set and traditionally goes to a post facility. And they would ingest all that material and sync the picture and sound together and create whatever media you need for the editing, the offline editing, which we'll get into. And then nowadays, pretty much standard is those dailies get uploaded to a streaming service, and people that have been granted access to them will get links every day, and to watch them, and depending on the show and what platform you're using, you can put comments right onto those dailies.
People even actually watching. Do you find that there are a lot of people on the list that are not actually watching these dailies?
It's a very long list of people that want access to them. But if you ever see the actual viewer logs, it's traditionally art department people, sometimes hair and makeup. If they're trying to match things. That might be about it.
I like checking them early to make sure that the tone feels right and everything feels like it's moving in the right direction. But then after that, I usually don't hold on. I usually keep the links, but then I don't check them out until a little bit later. I'm curious about for you though, like how do dailies work when you guys are like just do interviews or just capturing things on a when you never know when you're going to be able to get things together.
You just want to check. I'm kind of obsessive. So, shooting Sister Nancy, I would look at things, okay, Sister Nancy's did this amazing concert and we shot it with 3 cameras. Did we get it? Did we get it all? Do I got my money shot? Do I got, and I want to look at it. If she said something in the interview, did we get it? in the right way or from the right angle? Did I actually get what, and just to double check it, how the sound is, how, bumps, and just look over the footage, because most of the times when you're making docs, I tend to write my script, right? We say unscripted, but I tend to have a script or a blueprint of how I'm going to do things. But things change in real life. So sometimes it's good just to have like these recap viewings, like, okay, what did we get today? Especially if we have to shoot the same people or whatever tomorrow. Wow. What did we miss? Oh, okay, maybe I can do this tomorrow. So it's a lot of late night, myself with probably the cinematographer who always like to look at their footage anyways, and, with a beer or something after, the day, and then we'll just watch the footage and moan and groan of what we didn't get and what we should have gotten, but what looks really great, and to keep us motivated, and also what to get the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think in your world for sure that would be crucial, definitely. With episodic TV nowadays, especially with digital and multi-cameras and everything like that, it's standard to get 4 or 5 hours of dailies every day.
Oh, wow.
3 is a short day, Who has that much time?
There's a lot of people who are not yelling cut in between scenes is what's happening.
Well, that's another conversation.
Same here on the unscripted side. I started in this industry in music videos shooting on film.
Oh, wow.
Where you only had a tiny budget and you had to get make the music video. And now it's just like, I'm noted for, I never turn off the camera because it's just like, okay.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get. And it takes so much time for that person to go and get the camera, like when they put it down, So anyways, yeah, the camera's always going.
Do you buy your cinematographer a little treat at the end of the day when they've been carrying the camera around all day?
I treat them well.
Yes. What I would do is a little gift card to Hand and Stone for a little massage later on.
Yeah, I've done that. Like I've got, paid for massages and stuff.
It's it's so funny because like there's some certain times I'm kind of like, oh, it's nice. It's just a camera. It can't be that heavy. Also, they've got the old Easy Rig. It's called Easy Rig for a reason. And then you put one on and you're like, oh no, this is
it's heavy.
This is heavy. I'm sorry. Especially when they're like, oh, then you get questions like, oh, is there going to be a zoom lens on the camera? And you're like, why does that matter? And then you pick up a zoom lens and you're like, oh, that matters.
And we have different cameras for different things. So like I try to, give them the lighter cameras when it's longer shoots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious with and we haven't even gotten to like the actual, this is kind of like the beginning of production with the dailies, but like anything else in like prep, like what we normally call pre-production that we have to kind of like be thinking about before we even get to post-production. Because we've talked a little bit about hiring editors, but like there's a whole process as well with like not even just with the editing side of it, but like even just choosing a post house to work with you. And I wonder how that process kind of goes down.
A lot of times it's existing relationships that you have with the houses. It's obviously money driven a lot of times. You try to avoid the race to the bottom as far as who's going to do it for the least amount of money. But most of the post houses in Toronto are pretty solid and have great crews. So it's ultimately it comes down to money as much as anything. But yeah,
money. It's always money. Anything else in prep that we should be mindful of?
Yeah, sometimes trying to figure out when they have their slow time, in like with the post houses.
Yeah.
So like if you're trying to deliver something for TIFF, right, and everybody else is doing, and sometimes internationally as well, you might want to
take a little bit of time,
right? So noting that, but yeah, I think just picking those relationships are really important. We've used the same houses for a long time.
That's a good point about like how busy they get because you've got a schedule, you've got a deadline now. Do you feel like your deadlines always do they always turn out exactly how you planned it?
What I would say is air dates are great decision makers.
Yeah.
I've been lucky the last few things have not had that issue. So But no, obviously there's also, again, money. So you have to kind of try to remain within that. But things like mixes and that sort of thing are not a fixed cost, but you know what you have. It's just a question of when you spend it, right? So the schedule can be a little flexible that way, but it's usually the offline edit. Getting it to picture lock is the challenge.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
So now we're getting into production. We're doing dailies, and now in terms of like, well, let's start with a job for like as a director and a producer, someone who's like in the mix with all these things. What are you have to think about? You're thinking about what's happening now. You're thinking about the production and about capturing the material you need right now. But what are the things in the back of your head that you're already kind of like, okay, I got to keep an eye on this because it's going to make my job easier down the line?
Oh, there's so many elements that you could be using in documentaries, like it's not just interviews, there's live action, there's also archival. So, and that's one of the things you kind of want to think about in pre as well, your archival sources, your music sources, licensing stuff from different people who don't want to be found. Really, essentially chasing, for Bam Bam to use, that the footage of Jay-Z and his music video and his voice in the film. We chased him for 8 months.
Oh, wow.
So if we hadn't thought about, reaching out to him and his folks and his people, in prep, we wouldn't have made our deadline for Tribeca where we launched. So just lining up everything you need that's going to go into the show. Make sure you start working on your clearances, your archives, your elements. Even if you're working with a graphic artist or doing any kind of visual effects, it's hard to go to someone 2 weeks before you lock picture to say, I have an idea for what I want in this space. You got to start talking to them early and letting them know what your show is about so they have enough time for ideation and, showing them different cuts. Anyways, there's so many things.
I'm sure you found Jay-Z on a beach in France. Just like,
well, I have a story about that. I was trying to chase him for an interview, and every single time, he was like somewhere else. And I just remember one weekend, it was like the last straw. I was like, okay, this is my last time. If I'm going to get him, I'm going to get him this weekend. And they said, okay, let me ask him. And then she came back, his rep said, I think he's gonna be in France. He's got to go to some kind of fashion show. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm just getting blown off on this, right? That weekend, front row, you see Jay-Z and Beyonce at the Louis Vuitton show or something like that. And I was like, okay, he's got a real life.
All right. I guess. Be in France doing the cool thing or whatever.
But he did come back with a yes. And I had to send a cut to him and his people for him to watch how the footage was going to be used in the film. Or just his section. And then I got an approval that said Jay-Z said yes.
That's amazing. So wait, so who's just you talking about all that stuff that you have to be mindful of? I'm already like, well, who are you? Who do you have around you that's helping you with all? Like, you got to have a team.
A music supervisor who also turned into our archive supervisor, because in the film that we were doing, the archive sometimes was linked to the music, so you had to clear both. So we just said, hey, that makes more sense. And that's Amy Fritz, amazing. Mm-hmm. She worked in a lot of spaces with music, really beautiful soul of a person. And she would just going into the deep crates of some guy in Jamaica who has an archive too. I have to, clear stuff from, A-list, publishers and whatnot. It was sort of like a wild ride. It had its own story of clearing things. So
oh my God.
You have to be prepared for that, especially doing music docs or anything that's music based. So the decision running it out, you have to decide really in prep, kind of have an idea if you're going to work with real music that you're going to be licensing, or you're going to be working with a composer.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a music library or some sort.
And what the different costs are associated with those different things, because you're gonna need a very different budget for licensing music than with a composer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Musical licensing probably takes the longest of any step in the
It is, and it's so important. It's one of those things that, as writers especially, they'll just put in like, oh, and then this person just walks through singing
Seal, perhaps, Anthony?
Seal. Okay, I did have
Oh,
a seal.
no. Oh,
I did have a seal thing in there. Yes, I had a kiss from a rose in one.
Oh, wow.
He was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Fine, we'll adjust it." But it was because we had an actual seal that we wanted to seal. We wanted the seal to sing seal. That didn't work out for me.
No, yeah. Well, in hip hop, there's you got to clear the samples too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had tracks that
You had to go deep.
I had to go deep.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So one of the things that's happening is you got the dailies, but then you also have like with your editors kind of start working on their assemblies while they're shooting. And a lot of times we're for TV shows, for scripted TV shows, a lot of times we're doing block shooting. So like, they're kind of putting things together. What's that process like for editors when they've got an assistant editor that's kind of putting things together for them, but like that, when do those editors kind of start and what are they doing during production?
Yeah, no, they start pretty much right away. The dailies that come from the post facility land in the assistant editor's lap first. They are kind of, I've said this in all these sessions, the assistant editor is the glue that keeps the entire thing together. And so you need a good, strong one that's good at multitasking and can stay calm and just kind of keep 8 million balls in the air at once. So what they ingest the dailies from the post house and then set them up depending on the preferences of the editor, and then transfer that information to the editor, and then the editor just takes the line script from the shooting day and starts putting it together. Starts putting it together.
They're using the regular script. And then some editors will put together an assembly that has a little bit of like artistic freedom in it. They'll kind of be like, oh, this is kind of how I would put this together. Some of them will just be like, this is what you want. This is your script. This is what you wanted. Do you have a preference with the editors in terms of like which way they go? If you want,
well, they need to obviously include everything that was shot and scripted, whether it's working or not. They'll put their own touch on it, even out of the gate. But yeah, it's loose, and those first assemblies are generally way over whatever target time you're trying to get to.
Yes, always.
And then they work with people down the line, like even the director's cut, which comes after the editor does their thing, in TV anyways. The director will do their thing, but as well, a lot of them now know that the showrunner is going to jump in and just
change everything.
Kind of ignore everything they did.
We don't ignore it. This is one of those conversations we have with, like, as showrunners. If you've done a good job working with choosing the right directors, hopefully you'll be aligned on what the kind of show you're making.
Exactly.
And they will bring you a cut that is taking you far, far, far down the field, and you can kind of like add onto it and kind of get a bunch of different things. I'm really curious because I've not done doc work.
Yeah.
With me, it's like I send an editor, like, this is the script, this is what I want it to be. But when you're doing doc work, a lot of times you're building it with the editor, right? That's got to be an interesting process.
Yeah, it's, there's certain people I've worked with over and over again because there's a shorthand, and it's about elevating what you have to tell the clearest possible story and to make it enjoyable for your audience. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. Like you might, I tend to remember everything that I've shot, like every line that somebody tells me.
Oh, really?
I can't remember people's names though. But, and I say people's names wrong all the time. So that's just who I am. But it's because I saved this space in my brain to remember all this stuff. So it's really good to, for me to work with someone it feels like a collaborator on it. And they have a certain vibe that I like, an aesthetic. They understand story. Like I can't work with an editor who doesn't understand story structure. And I think no matter if you're making a dramatic film or scripted or unscripted, there are some tenets for story that remain universal that you have to kind of follow. Yeah. Unless you're making something experimental, then just declare that.
And do your cool abstract thing.
Right. Yeah. But so I need to work with, an editor who understands that, so they know when I'm hitting like my 1 minute, my 10 minute, my 3 minute, whatever how I'm doing it, 30 minute, whatever. They know that I'm trying to hit certain markers in the storytelling thing.
And when that process, with that process, is it kind of like a do you kind of like watch footage together? Do you give them like a little bit of like a, here's what I want, here's what I'm looking for? Is there like a little bit of like a little roadmap, like a maybe even like a written roadmap, your script that you kind of are talking about?
I go back and I look at my what do you call it, shooting script, and then I say, okay, what did I not get? What's like, oh, what worked, what didn't work, whatever. And then I really map out using cue cards, really.
Okay.
How I see the structure going. And, when you're working with someone who's used to, collaborating with you, they can push back and you have conversations. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a dance. But then I leave, and they have to watch all the footage. That's the thing. I pay them to watch all the footage.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you have to give them that time to soak it in on their own, because I have my own bias as well, and you want to get out of the way of what is actually happening. I could say, "Oh, we shot this cool thing with Sister Nancy," and all that. And he was like, "No, that was the worst shoot ever," right? So, you gotta step away sometimes as a director, and then they would watch it, and then we'd look at, okay, how are we going to build this thing? And we look at the cue cards, and we build, and we do scenes by scene. And then sometimes I leave them alone. Okay, this is what I want. This is what is working. This is not what is working. I'm gonna leave you. Like it's just it's like cooking with someone in the kitchen.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm curious, like because you worked as a director on For the Culture.
Yeah.
And Amanda Paris was showrunning that.
Yes.
And then how did that work with your specific edits? Because I know in my world, the director will get the first cut, and then they'll kind of like go work on another show, and then me as a showrunner, I have to kind of stick around and make sure that the edit continues and we figure out what we need. And because I'm across the entire series, I kind of have a plan for what's going to be. But for you, when you were working For the Culture, is it kind of a similar thing like that, or did you kind of like follow the process all the way through?
Yeah, it was. I did the same thing. I did my shooting script.
Yeah,
but it's Amanda's point of view.
Right.
So when you're editing the show, when you're putting the show together, regardless of what you filmed out in the world, she's looking at situations through a particular lens. So when you're shaping the show, it's all around her lens, not so much mine. I can put my stuff in there, like what I think is whatever, but it's the way she is talking about the world. So, so she was, I wouldn't say involved in every cut, but I would shape it with the editor. She would come in, look at it. We would actually, as producers, we would look at the cuts act by act and have discussions. And then, go back and then go, fix things that people don't like or what wasn't clear or whatever, and work like that. And in the meantime, she would think about the VO she's writing.
Oh, that's great.
So then she would go in and take a stab at the VO, or we'd have discussions like, okay, I think I want you to write. I think I want you to say this. Like she actually said some of my VO that I wrote before.
Yeah.
That's doing great. Some scenes, right? But not, not all the time, but she did, right? And so just trying to shape it as much as possible so it's watchable. That's my thing. Is like, come on.
I want people to see it.
We want people to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So during production for you, Dave, like there's a lot of stuff happening that you're not a part of. There's people are shooting, the directors, writers, producers, actors, a lot of stuff going on. Is this all a downtime for you to get prepared for the post-production, or are you already in in go mode from the start?
No, it's somewhat leisurely.
Okay.
I'll say, not too loudly. And there's always stuff that comes up, and depending on upcoming VFX needs, that sort of thing, you need to kind of weigh in on and see what's feasible, and there might even be like stock footage that you're trying to find and or match, that kind of stuff. So it's not overwhelming during the shoot.
You basically get a call. Anytime someone says, we'll fix it in post, you get a call that day.
That's pretty much.
if you can actually fix it.
Exactly.
Like, hey, we just did this thing. It's not working. Can we do that in VFX later? I'm like, yeah, I suppose. It's fine. But then you get those questions about like, where's the budget going to come from?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's also like, what is the idea? Like, how do you want to fix it? Are you changing the idea and making it something else? Like, you got to be clear about that.
Very true. Because you can be like, we just needed to do the thing that it was supposed to do that we couldn't do practically. And it's like, okay, well, that's going to cost this much money. Or is it like, it's not as, we did the thing practically, but it didn't look as big and as crazy as we wanted it. Now we want the explosion to take out the whole city. It's like, well, that's going to cost a little bit different. That's a good point. Like if you're gonna change things, be specific about what you're trying to change and what you want out of it, because everything's gonna cost a little bit of money.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm curious. So then, while production's happening, okay, so they get to that place when they're like, okay, that's a wrap, everybody, and you think everyone's like, hey, we did it, high fives all around, wrap party. Everyone thinks they're done, and that's when, for me, I always know like, okay, well, that's just one part of it. This is when things about to really get serious. What's that first day after wrap for you like when you're post-production supervising?
It's just kind of another day because we're in the thick of it by that point.
Yeah.
If you have more than one editor going, then everybody's working hard on a series. Usually by that point, cuts are already going out to networks and what have you. So that stuff creeps up and it slowly builds. My job sort of has the craziness at the beginning, and then once you're actually shooting and things are happening and everybody's happy and doing their it all comes together, and it not coast, but it kind of rides along for a while, and then as after wrap, like you say, it starts ramping up, and then it gets completely crazy. And then as you start to finish off episodes and what have you, it starts to trail off again, and then the last month or whatever, you're kind of just waiting for those last bits of paper and closed captioning and that sort of thing. So
I want to get into what we refer to as the offline edit. What's the offline edit like for let's say in your role as like a director on a feature? Because I feel like a director on a feature is the same as a showrunner on a TV show. Like that's pretty much the same job, because you're responsible for everything from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
What's that offline? And I'm going to get Dave to explain what offline edit is in a second. I'm going to explain offline edit first, and then we'll get into what that means for Alison.
Well, it's the creative process of taking the dailies and creating a story out of it. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. And just figuring out what you need to tell that story.
Did we ever figure out why it was called offline? I feel like I keep on asking you this question. I never know why it's called offline edit.
It's probably a holdover from some 70s, 80s kind of term.
70s. What a good day.
You still call it camera footage, right? That kind of stuff.
Right?
That's
it's not just
footage. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah. How that came about, I'm not sure. But yeah, the offline is essentially the creative process of doing your edit, your picture edit.
So what's that like in your world as like specifically director on a feature, like getting into that offline edit? You've got all the pieces now you kind of get into it.
There's certain things I got to get done. I got to get my all my transcripts for my interviews done. I've got to get like everything kind of done and string out, so all scenes have to be assembled.
Oh really? Okay.
All interviews have to be assembled, cleaned up, take out the ums and ahs. Just all. I told you I'm obsessive. You wanted to hear this?
I love it.
I know everything's. I don't know. I am obsessive.
I love the process.
And then clean everything up, get all the scenes assembled, because in the doc you just don't know what if you got like the scene, even though it sounds weird, but you're shooting loosely sometimes, and things are happening in the real world, and you got to make sure that your scenes they can hold, and then we do radio edits. So I take my themes and all that. I do radio edits of like I'll have people talking about a subject. Oh, Sister Nancy growing up in, wherever in Jamaica, whatever. And I have my people talking. I cut it together that way. How see who holds, see who doesn't hold.
Well,
whatever.
You're saying radio edits, like you're just the VO, just the audio.
I'm one of those people that I go by sound.
Okay.
Sound is one of the most important things I feel in filmmaking. So I think I'm just sensitive to sound. That's why I like music, docs and whatnot. And so I really study the way people are talking, the pitch of their voice, how they answer questions. I use all of that in my storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's just play for me, right? So I like to hear people how they're talking and how this people on stage, how they sound, like everything, and they start shaping the story. It's just basically like that. And what the hardest thing though is, because you have so many elements. Sometimes I'm working with, interviews, live action, archival photographs, and archival video. It might be another creative element, like I did recreations.
That's a lot of media. Yeah,
recreations and
I would
bam.
think in a doc for sure. All that assembling essentially is a mammoth task before you even start the story shaping, right?
Right. So it's assembling.
You're still kind of creating your dailies almost,
Yeah.
What program are you doing that in? Are you just scrapbooking? What's happening? What's going on?
I was scrapbooking. I wish. Well, a lot of times we use Avid because we have Avid, and we have remote editing suites at Oya Media Group, which I found it with Gaddy Contact George. But so Avid is what we usually use. Some editors like to work with Premiere because of all these different elements that we work with. Yeah. It's easier with Premiere, but we like to do things the hard way. So Avid it is. And
a lot of people still use. Look, a lot of people are using Avid still. I feel like.
Are you using Avid?
Avid is kind of the go-to standard tool for scripted stuff. Premiere can be a bit of a headache, but that's just what we're used to. I think because mostly, like the scripted editors and whatever are used to working on Avid. So when somebody says, "Oh, we're doing this one in Premiere," it's like a bit of an eye roll sometimes. But now, actual fact, I haven't done that many Premiere shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's generally been Avid for the last 15 years, anyways.
I feel like it's the people who are coming, it's like the people who are like the influencers and the people who are like coming up. They're using it because they have access to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just use it, and like we're mostly Avid. Like only once in a while there would be a show like yourself, with Premiere. But I don't even know. I can't even tell you my process. It's crazy. Okay.
I love
it. Crazy. It's crazy. I just do the thing. No, So it's really just prepping all the assets and all that, and really making sure that, okay, like I relate it to cooking because I love cooking. So like, if you're making something, you got to make sure all your ingredients are like ready to go, right? You got to wash it. You got to, you got to wash your meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
take care of all the different pieces so that they can come together.
Yeah. And then I just think about what I want the story to be, and working with the editor, we bounce things off of each other, and that structure, like putting my cue cards up, and my wall is filled with cue cards. Although with Bam Bam, I only had, would you believe it? I probably have a picture somewhere. I had maybe 12 cards.
Wow.
This is the structure of the film.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're probably like, okay, I'm just going to break it all down to these 12 pieces.
And every time my editor, beautiful Eugene Weiss, every time he'd go off track, I'm like, see, right here, I want that. And I would leave him, and he'd always work magic. He'd always make it better than I could even imagine, really. And I'd come back. But if it didn't have the one piece that I wanted, I was just like, but, and then working through problems, like everything is, I don't think people shoot anything perfectly and everything just aligns. So you have problems. You want this scene to do a certain thing, or you want to take the audience from this here to there. How do you do that? And your footage might not be able to do that for you. So like how to, bring in the other elements. It could be the sound. It could be whatever.
Yeah.
Just being creative. I love documentaries in that space because I get to be so like, it's just like cooking.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes hate it because it's like that. There's so many ways you can go. And I hear there's always like, many ways to write, to tell a story, but only one right way. Is that what it is?
I feel like there are a lot of right ways.
Yeah. But that's what,
there's only one way you're going to do it. By the end of it, there's only one way you're doing it.
Right. So it's that. And then, but I do have to say, like sometimes we would bring in a story editor or a story consultant. I didn't do that in Bam Bam. I just was like in my own world.
Right.
But a lot of times we'd bring those people in. And so when you're scheduling out your delivery schedule, whatever, you have to also factor in, notes from those people, getting them a chance to watch the film and give notes. And then the broadcaster as well. Most broadcasters want 2 weeks. It's like
I was just going to ask you about the feedback loop for that. Like there's because once you feel like you've got it to a place where, okay, this is this is where I want it to be, and this
Yeah.
is my cut. This is my director's cut. My edit.
Right.
Who are you getting that feedback from after that? You've got the broadcaster, of course, but a lot of times you're producing your own content.
Mm-hmm.
So that also could be a little bit of a trap, right? Because if you don't have do you have trusted people that you're like, okay, I'm gonna send this to you, be brutally honest because I want this to be as strong as possible.
And that's the beautiful thing about building a community, right?
Yeah.
Bringing in folks. We had a screening of Gaddy's film a couple nights ago, and we brought in like amazing people that, award-winning, international folks to look at, her rough cut for her feature doc that's coming out soon. But I wouldn't say soon, but next year. But that's the thing. You can't be in a silo. I like to show when I work, I'm like this.
Yeah.
But when it's ready to be seen by others, I share it. So Gaddy would take a look at it. Our business affairs team, our other people who are just, my daughter would look at my work and say, "Hey, Mom, that's cool." Like, "Oh, that's not cool," whatever. But give it to different people, professionals, people who I admire their films. We got so many talented people. And why aren't we doing that? I know they do that a lot in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah.
And I worked with a lot of people in the U.S. early on in my career, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
So I do that here.
That's good.
Yeah.
With the scripted side of things, like it gets bananas who gets to say. So you get your director's cut, editor does the assembly, the director comes in, does their cut, and then as a showrunner, this is when it becomes your time to shine.
Absolutely.
So take us through like there are a lot of different ways to do it, but like just in general, like what do you think is the way that is most commonly done at that point during the offline edit?
The director cut gets the director gets their allotted DGC days.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually how quickly can we get them in and out.
Poor director.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, that's kind of the TV world, right? And because they're on to their next gig as well, in theory. So the director cut does their thing, and then it would go to like a showrunner like yourself, and you've probably, hopefully, agreed on how much time you're going to get for your thing, because from that. There can also be sometimes, once you do your cut, it might go to the production company before it goes to the studio or to the network, who's ever else giving notes. So you got to factor that time into it as well.
And this is all time where it's like, it's being cut with the editor, goes to someone, they got to wait for notes come back, more editing, goes back, just a new cut every single time. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, once the producers, hopefully the producers and the showrunner are in agreement as far as what that cut is, and then that would go out to a network as a rough cut. In the States, they tend to call them network cuts and studio cuts, that sort of thing. It's a slightly different naming convention in the States, but it's still the same process. The networks essentially get two kicks at it. They
usually a rough cut and then a fine cut.
And then a fine cut.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Americans don't like to call them rough and fine cuts, but anyways.
What do they call them?
Like a studio network cut
just a network
one and
cut.
network cut two, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody.
7.
I think that's the way to go. Yeah. I don't. The rough cut, because right now I feel like the rough cut that they want is a fine cut.
It's very close.
And
to
the fine cut is
a
picture lock.
Yeah.
Right?
It feels like everyone's trying to advance the next cut before.
Yeah. You would hope that you're getting closer to the final product with each cut. Once you get your network notes back on the rough cut, then you would all address them, and both the production company and yourself would be weighing in and commenting on those kind of things. You try to address the network notes as best you can. Sometimes, depending on your relationship with them, you can push back on them.
Sometimes you can't because you didn't shoot that thing that they wanted.
There's that too. If it don't exist,
you pitch one thing and then they finally see it. It's like, where's that thing that I liked?
Yeah.
It's like, weren't you there on the day when that thing blew up and we didn't have access to it anymore?
Exactly.
Oh, that's right, you weren't there.
And so then once that first round of notes are all addressed, it would go out as a fine cut or a network cut too. And we've been on SkyMed pretty good. They've come back this season saying good to lock based on that fine cut.
Oh, that's great.
But also it's all completely normal to have the last few notes to come back on a fine
Usually
cut.
small things.
Usually small things.
And then this is a good time to kind of bring up like runtime. Like I think one of the things that people don't, especially when you're first time show running, one of the things you don't realize is like that's a question you should ask very early.
Mhm.
Like it's a question you should find out about as soon as possible. Like what's the runtime what's the runtime for this show? Do I have a little bit of leeway in terms of like the different episodes? I remember one time I was working on my BBC Kids show and they were like, they're cool with the runtime being a difference of 30 seconds, but every episode had to be within 30 seconds. And the reason that was for that network was BBC was going to pair your show with another show. And for whatever this is 10 episodes, if your cut is between 23 and 23:30, then they're going to find a show that's about 6 minutes to kind of pair with your show. And it needed to be within that time. Sometimes like, with Netflix, Paramount, these other streamers, sometimes they're just kind of like, just make it whatever you want it to be, and that's cool. And sometimes they actually want it to be a certain time because they're going to throw in commercials because the streamers are throwing in commercials to things now these days.
For sure. Runtime. Yeah. even at the script stage, you should know what your runtime is going to be.
Figure it out early.
Because you can end up shooting way more than you actually need, and of course, there's a huge dollar attached to that.
Yes.
And if it gets tossed out in the first.
And if you're in the States
around,
and you have all the money in the world because you're with a company that's happy to spend all that money, cool. Like I tell people all the time, The Office, when I was working on the show on The Office, our runtimes, our editors' assemblies were regularly in the 30 to 35 minute range, and the final cut for the show was about 22:40. So we were regularly cutting about 10 minutes out of every episode. And we would do the 2 seasons I was there, we were on schedule to do like 20 to 30 episodes. So that's a lot of sea stories on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
100%.
If you're starting out, don't do that.
Like even now, I know it's like, ooh, like in doc, we tend to overshoot. But now the broadcasters, for a TV hour, they don't want your first cut to be over 5 minutes. And now for features, maybe 10 minutes. You could kind of try to push it for 15 minutes. Yeah. That's a lot. Like if you have hundreds of hours of footage.
Oh my God, absolutely.
And then so, after production and in pre-production, you kind of look at your spec sheet and all your deliverables, right? Like how and if you need to deliver your rough cut or your first cut with commercial breaks or not, and the runtime. And then, after you wrap, you pull that out again. Sometimes things change too. Sometimes they'll send a new delivery spec sheet for 2027.
Yeah, because sometimes the company you're working for got bought by another company.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Things have changed.
The other thing you always have to remember is those runtimes usually factor in tail credits and whatever opening main title sequence you
that
have,
will
right?
burn you every single time because you're like, oh, well, this show is right within the confines of what I need. And then it's like, well, we do need 12 seconds off the top for the opening credit, for the opening title cards. Yeah. And we will need some time at the end for the the vanity cards. So you actually have...
And recap, a lot of episodic shows have recaps. At the beginning of them. That's all factored in, or even next week's on, which are a huge headache. So all that's got to roll into whatever that magic time is. And I think your rough cuts, like you were saying, you try to keep them 5 minutes-ish over what your target time is. But the fine cut should be real close,
I think it's good to try and get your fine cut as close as possible. Like you were saying, if you can get your fine cut to even like the runtime you actually wanted at, then there's a good chance that you can go right from your fine cut to a locked cut, which I think will, given how cramped the post-production schedules usually are, anytime you can find a day here and there where you can kind of like move things up a little bit, it will help you so much.
And just kind of finalize that. Normally you send out, once you get your fine cut notes, and if they want to see it again, if they don't want to see it again, you'll send out a proposed lock just so you have an official sign-off. This is the proposed lock. And then this went. Sometimes you still get notes on the proposed. I was going to say, someone's like, you know what? I just thought about this one thing. It's like, we're so close. But it's good that you do it because if you lock it and then you have to go back and unlock it, then that's a whole process. Can you talk a little bit about what
about lock? Because people are like, oh, you're gonna lock a cut. Like, what does that even mean? Lock a cut?
Yeah, no, it's locking, because the way the post works is you put together the picture first, which we've just explained, which leads you to that magical moment of the lock cut day, and then from there, your assistant editor.
Lock cut day, is that like Christmas for you?
It can be a joyous moment, depending on the show. And then your assistant editor would basically turn over to both your video and audio facilities, not always the same place, all the pieces that they need to create what's going to be ultimately your final master. Because do you want me to explain? We're sort of sliding into online at this point.
We're sliding into online at this point. So yeah, so like this is why it's important. Like when you lock your cut, you're basically saying, this is what I want this episode, this film, this piece of art to be visually. This is what I want it to be. Now you're sending it to all these different people who are going to be adding in all these different things. And if they're not working on the same cut, then they're going to put something in a place of the episode or the movie or whatever, in a place where it will mess with a bunch of other stuff. So this is why when we talk about like having to unlock a locked cut, it creates all kinds of chaos because everyone's already started working on the locked cut.
And tracking it. Tracking which cut you're working on that's what's gonna happen. You can be like, which cut? And then somebody jumped ahead and worked on the last cut or this new cut, the cut that just came off. Like it just gets really, really messy.
Do you let people have access to earlier cuts because I'm sure I'm always like, don't let anyone have it until they have to have it. But I guess technically, if like you're like in a place where you need to keep the schedule moving, you got to let people see some stuff early.
Yeah, some composers I work with, well, at least the one main one, he doesn't really like to see anything unless it's locked.
Yeah.
But when you're editing, you kind of need the sound in there. Like I'm very sound, so I'm always like, okay, what do you have for me? Can you do can you look at this? Can you pre-score it or whatever when I'm working with that composer? But the picture is locked.
Yes.
But you can always do stuff with the sound.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but the picture has to match the time code of the sound. So that's the problem. Like every time you add something or whatever to a picture, a lock cut, you're messing up with that time code. And if your mixer has already started, because mixing a picture is a lot of work. They're cleaning up every bit of audio. They're, all the stuff that they do. Like I don't know if you want to go into that.
We're gonna get into
okay. But anyways, it's just all the work and prepping the picture to mix, like all the layers, all the tracks. Now you're gonna send them another cut, and everything is time code dependent.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna send them something that's off, even just a couple frames.
Yeah, but it's only a few frames.
It messes everything up.
It's funny, and like if you're in a mix, and usually it's just like at the playback day where the producers come in and whoever and sit through it, and the producer will be like, "That's not working for me. What if we just, change this shot?" And you can, I just know every other person in the room who was just going to sit there poker faced will be like inside. They're like, "You've got to be kidding me," because it's you got to go back. The work you've already done could potentially just be tossed, and otherwise, if you're lucky, it's just nipping and tucking and reconforming sort of thing. But even that's extra work for somebody, and there's a cost to that too.
So it's incredibly important when you lock a cut, you understand what that means and that you believe in the locked cut but also it's one of those things as you gain more experience, there are going to be things in that locked cut that you're kind of like, well, that's not. I don't want it like that. Well, yeah, there are going to be ways to enhance it. You're going to have visual effects. You're going to have music. You're going to have different things that will enhance the overall experience of that moment. But just think to yourself, is this the picture I want? And I'm gonna zhuzh it up with all the different things in a second, all the different elements in a second. But like, is this the locked picture that I want? Because if it's not, then have those conversations then. Because once you lock it,
it is. And there's tricks, of course, to try to minimize the collateral damage if you want to change the lock. But
yes, and I have used some of those tricks in the past where it's like if you replace it with something that's the exact same length, You only like it,
or even within a certain window of it, right? Like as long as the rest of the show is
right. Like even if you're adding something on at the beginning, or there's a few different ways. Don't learn those bad habits.
Yeah, or archive that you thought was cleared wasn't cleared, and you have to replace that with another shot. Like it happens, right? Yeah. But you just got to understand that that's money. It's real money from now, and who's going to pay for that?
It's not going to be me. Don't call me.
Because you're the showrunner. It's the line producer that'll be calling me,
right?
If they're still around.
So you lock the cut. Who is the cut now? Like the offline editor, who was the editor that's been there from the entire. Usually, this is their time to kind of like scoot. They're gonna go do something else. They're probably gonna find other jobs to work on, or just kind of like see you at the premiere party or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So who's this locked cut now going to?
Just as a sidetrack, that on a feature, a lot of times editors will be kind of ride through post, like the picture editor.
Oh yeah.
We'll go through right through to the final mix. A lot of times, because it's a way more intense process than just the episodic TV.
Gotcha.
And so it would, like I was saying, it goes to the video facility and the audio facility, and also your VFX department. And depending on what's required, the way it works is the video house, based on the time code, goes back to the original footage that you shot, because up until that point, your offline editor has just been working with like a proxy file, like a lower res.
Just to make it easier for them to manipulate the footage.
Yeah,
so
and
the computer doesn't crash every time.
Yeah. And so they go back to the original camera footage and take the edit list from the lock cut and put together the master that matches your offline picture. And what goes into that could be stock footage. It's going to be visual effects. Ultimately, at some point, credits and any kind of supers that go on top of it, that sort of thing. So they do all that, put that together, and then they do a color pass as well. They do go through the color grading, which is a separate step from the actual conforming and editing, where they take that assembled master and run it through a very fancy box, shall we say? And
it's getting very, very. The color correction stuff, the tools that they're using for that is getting.
It's great. Like more and more.
They're getting really, really impressive.
And they're getting way more recognition and making way more money, colorists nowadays.
Oh, okay.
Because they're you can manipulate virtually anything in the color suite, and even now a lot of them, the keeners, or even just doing visual effects within the color suite, depending on the platform that they're working with, that sort of thing. But that colorist now is sort of a key person for the look of your show. The tools are completely insane what they can do in a suite now compared to the old days. Like we were, because I'm old, the days when we were blown away that you could all of a sudden put a square box on the screen, right, and isolate that and change that and leave the rest of it alone. But now, they're painting around things and what have you. It's crazy what they can do.
It's pretty wild. So for you, Alison, when you get to that locked place, you get to the locked place with your cut. Like is it kind of the similar process for you when you get down that path?
Yeah, like creatively, you're thinking about what you can do in this next stage to even elevate. So like for color correction for Bum Bum, I shot recreations and I shot, and then we had archives. So I wanted to make it look like the recreations kind of blended in with the timing of the archive. So that was a creative, decision that, okay, in the color, let's see how close we can get it to the archives. Sometimes it worked better than others, but it was an attempt just to, elevate this, give you this kind of, the audience a seamless experience, questioning, is that archive? Mm-hmm. Is that, recreation? And so doing stuff like that, you can reframe some things, if you have a certain look for your archives and you want to, put it in a box, or like there's a lot of little things you can do there.
Yeah.
But I feel like color is kind of one of my weakness, to be honest, because it always changes. The technology always changes. I just tell them what I'm looking for, and I let them make their magic or do their magic on the picture. And I'm usually in there with the cinematographer who has probably a better, you know,
I always make sure my
vested in-
cinematographers get a look at that.
Yeah.
Especially because like a lot of times when they're capturing those images, they're, you know, we can probably talk about LUT, you know, what a LUT is.
The LUT.
And with, you know, what they've set up with what they set up with their camera people and what they're set up with post and like what they want it to look like. But I want them to kind of like also, when they see the finished product, to be like, oh, that's what I wanted, as opposed to like, what did you do to my beautiful
right?
What hatchet job did you? So I always make sure, like, and this is the thing, like, a lot of cinematographers are not being paid anymore once you get to that stage of the game. So it's about sending an invite and saying, hey, and most of them want their work to come out looking the way they want it to look. So they'll show up, they'll be there, and they want to make, you know, and often they'll work with, if they had a hand in choosing a colorist, then hopefully that's something that they can already have like a little bit of a
shorthand. Kind of, yeah.
But I think I'm the same way. Because there are times where I'm in a color grade and people are looking at things. I'm like, oh, that feels a little too magenta. And I'm like, what are you looking at? How are you seeing all these? You can see way more colors than I can see.
Right.
So
I think that's the thing. I probably can't see enough colors.
With those bionic eyes.
Right.
But one thing I would say, like for me especially, like understanding black skin tone and how to capture that, and I think that's an important thing, especially if you're racialized. Showrunners, just be there to make sure things feel consistent and feel good. And even if you're in a place where you don't understand color grading and all those things, you still know what you're looking at. You still know if you can still tell if something feels right or something doesn't feel right. Yeah. So be there to protect your work.
Yeah, definitely be there, and especially black skin tones.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. Black people have like a yellow undertone and a red undertone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to know which one. And sometimes you'll have people with different, like multiple skin tones in one shot.
Right.
And you have to know which one has the undertone of yellow and which one. And just like.
Definitely.
You know, and you don't want black people to look ashy.
Yeah, you don't.
And we know, we also say, oh, that person looks ashy.
You don't want your family to come see your show and they're like, what did you shoot
Were
this
you sick on that day?
Yeah, did you shoot this on an old Nokia phone? Like, what's going on over here? So yeah, I think even like for me, like I'm not the person that has like the most keen eye, but I do know like when I see something that doesn't feel right, so I'm there at those. And also like the more I've done them, the more I've learned. The more I've learned about the process and what you can fix and what you can't fix.
Yeah.
In those things, because you were talking about how many colorists are now VFX people, and there is absolutely a delineation between what a colorist is supposed to do and what a visual effects artist is supposed to do, and that's a budget situation. And sometimes you'll get to a place where you'll ask a colorist to do something, and they're, you know what, they might be able to do it, but you ain't paying them to do that. So,
those rooms are generally expensive as the meter's running, so you have to weigh that for sure.
You have to kind of like, well, sometimes they'll say, you know, we're going to have to, this will take me, and they just realize sometimes the colorist will be like, well, this will take me 6 hours, but if you send it to VFX, it'll take them half an hour. So that's probably a job for the VFX team. And I think
it might take them 2 weeks to deliver that half hour's work.
Right.
So it might be faster to have the colorist do it, you know?
See, those are the things that a good post-production supervisor knows. Because also, it becomes a budget situation. And I tell showrunners, a lot of the times you're not responsible for the budget. You're responsible for taking the budget you have and utilizing it as best as you can, but you can't just say, go ahead for something that costs more money unless you actually get the people who are responsible for the money to give you the go-ahead. Someone who is, you got to check in with your post-production supervisor and be like, hey, is there money for this thing? Or how are you want to handle it? And then have that conversation and then move forward with that. But that's something you pick up as you go.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to ask some more about, so for you said you're really, really keying in on music. And I like to think about once an audio, yeah. Because I mean, like, I feel like once a cut gets locked, I think about it in 2 different lanes. I think about it in the visual lane and the audio lane. And it's audio visual, but I think also for me, because I know as a showrunner, I'm going to have to be in 2 different places at the end of this run. I'm going to have to be in a color suite, looking at the visuals, making sure everything feels good. And I'm going to have to be in a sound mix, listening to everything to make sure everything sounds good. So my brain is always like, as a showrunner, I'm always kind of like, all right, locked cut. One goes on the visual path, which is a lot of different people. One goes on the audio path, which is, again, a lot of different people. Yeah, so I kind of want to. How much time do we got? We got a little bit of time. I kind of want to break down this online edit and like the different parts of it. So you were talking about being really keying in onto the music side, but it's not just about music. Music is two things. You have composed music, but you've also got like licensed music, and you've got like a music supervisor. And then you're getting into the other side of it, which is like sound edit and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Dialogue.
Ambience.
You want to break down some of that stuff?
Yeah. The dialogue, whether it's, scripted or unscripted, people are talking, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. That's the dialogue track. And then you have, the ambiance of the scene. You have a street scene. You want to hear cars. You want to hear people moving. You want to hear maybe them walking or whatever. You don't want to, you want to build out the world and, sonically.
Yes.
Right.
So now you got Foley artists who are involved. You got sound editors.
Yeah. And you want everything. You want to hear your actors, or you want to hear the characters that you're following. So that has to be nice and clean so that people can hear what they're saying.
And sometimes if it isn't clean, you have to do ADR, which is what is the ADR? Automated
dialogue replacement.
Dialogue. Wait, what does the A stand for?
Audio.
That's right. Audio dialogue.
Sometimes it's automatic, depending on who you're talking to.
Depending on how much AI you're using.
Or looping, just to really confuse it, or looping.
Looping.
Back to those are 50s, 40s or 50s. Film terms,
and we still have loopers. There's still loopers.
It's still loop group. Yeah, no, it's the category.
12 loopers. Loopers. So
do you do a lot of ADR on docs?
We do a lot of voiceover recordings. So we'll do the voiceover, the master voiceover.
Okay.
And we'll do it in a studio. Sometimes the trick is the VO that you got in online or offline is so good, and it's so edited so to the picture so well, and then they come in the just in post or in the online or in the right before the mix to do the VO, and it's just like it's too clean. It's like so it's too pretty. It's too pretty. It's too cleaned up. So anyways, you're dealing with all these elements, and so I like to create my shows in a way that if somebody's watching at home and they go to the kitchen to get a drink of water or whatever, they can still hear my show and know what's going on.
Okay. So
that's how I kind of build it in my mind. And so, so when I'm in the mix, there's a point where we won't look at picture. We'll just listen to it. Listen to the film. Listen to the film. Or, this is if you have time. Like he's like, oh, you cost a lot of money, don't you? But I always use all the time in the mix, and I always feel like I want more because I just love it so much. But just and then obviously working with talented people. Michelle Irving, she mixed Bam Bam out of Rolling Pictures, and it was really good experience working with her. She was just amazing to work with. And she had her team of people who clean up audio and whatnot. But there's layers and layers and layers of tracks,
Yeah. So many. Sometimes I'm looking at a mix and I just see like the track numbers and they're just like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm just like, how many layers are there to this thing? It's madness. A question for you about like deciphering and deciding whether or not you're going to go with a music composer versus a music supervisor for certain scenes. Like how do you go about doing that?
Budget and time. And then just like turn around. Like for doc series, we tend to use a music library. Mm-hmm. It's just more efficient. All the editors have access to it. You don't have to worry about really replacing music down the line as you work. You're just doing it creatively and getting people to sign off.
Where someone uses a song and you get attached to it and you're like, oh, it's a beautiful song, fits the moment so perfectly. Oh, it costs how much money? No, we can't do that song. And then all of a sudden you're fighting against that track that you used to love, and now it can never sound the way you wanted it to sound because you're used to.
Temp love is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Temp love.
Love. Yeah. So picking that music library that you're allowed to use for those shows. But then there's some shows that are shot in Canada that they use composers because they have huge budgets, A lot of the game shows and all that. I work a lot with Warren Isaacs, and he when I get a composer to work with me, he's the one I go to. And he works on all those big shows. Like he, scored, Canada's Olympic
Oh, wow.
stuff, right?
Okay, yeah.
And he works on like Big Brothers and all these, anything Canada, he's worked on those shows.
Okay.
So anyways, but and there's a particular style, but when you're working on feature documentary or some kind of artistic documentary and you want like the nuance of like, building emotion, it's all about building emotion. That's why you want to work with a composer, at least I think.
Yeah.
It's a longer process, and so it's a little bit more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to get into
the other thing. Sorry, just as far as a music supervisor, if you're licensing music, you would traditionally use a music supervisor to guide that, as opposed to a composer. So
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Don't get your composer to do that. Music supervision,
like,
not happening.
Am I doing this? I could have just written this instead of had me looking through this library.
Some people, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
Some people use music libraries, but then they hire someone to select songs, which is a new thing, and I think it's kind of cool.
I think it's kind of cool. I think it's also bad for Dave, because when we worked on our show, it was like, hey, Dave, we don't have money for somebody. Can you go through this thing and look for all our songs?
Oh, no.
And Dave was like, here's a bunch
I
of
became
songs.
an APM expert.
Yes, you did. How much you were so nice to do. You didn't, I guess budgets were a situation.
Yeah, both music and stock footage. I kind of like just trolling through.
Yeah.
The thing with stock footage now is that the same 1,000 clips, whatever, pick a number, are spread across all the same stock houses, and they're all slowly merging again, like everything in the entertainment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the Gettys and the Shutterstocks and what have you. They're all sort
Pond
of
Fives.
Pond 5's owned by Shutterstock now.
Oh, okay.
That kind of thing. So, and in the old days, you would request a VHS tape kind of thing, and from a printout of God knows what. But now it's all online, right? So I can just sit there and whether it's music or visuals, you can just sit there and scroll through endless searches. But it's kind of fun because it's like, anyways, stock footage is a whole other tangent, so I will avoid that. But
we can get into it. We can get into it later. One thing I do want to talk about in the online edit. One of the things as a showrunner you're going to be responsible for are spotting sessions. So there's like sound spotting, there's VFX spotting, there's a lot of different spotting sessions that happen. Can you break down some of those different spotting sessions that you've had to run in the past?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's traditionally 3, and the first one would be just a sound spot. Sometimes it's rolled in with the music spot as well, depending on how they want to do it. And so everybody gathers. Nowadays, it's a lot of times happens over Zoom.
Yep.
But all your sound editors, because you have like a dialogue editor and a sound effects editor and an assistant editor. Sometimes there's a sound designer, but a lot of times the sound effects editor is also the sound designer. And then with showrunners and anybody else that wants to be involved, you basically get online and just watch the show and stop whenever somebody says, what do you want here? This is what I want here. You sure this is right? That kind of thing. And
I've had some great conversations in sound spotting.
Yeah.
You remember the one with Shelved? With the you worked on Shelved with me, right?
No.
We're working on Shelved. Wow, man, that was
too many shows.
I just assumed they were working on all my shows. But there's a moment on Shelved when we were talking about there was a scene on a bus, but we wanted it to sound like it was like a little bit of an homage to Moby Dick. And so we were like happy with some water sounds in the back. I was like, you're kind of close to Lake Ontario. You can throw some of that stuff on. And then one of our sound editors was like, I've got just the Virgin sounds for this. And I was like, Virgin sounds? He's like, I haven't used these anywhere yet. I was in Europe last week and I captured the sounds of these birds. They're these specific like water birds. I forget what they were, but he's like, this is finally my time to use these Virgin sounds. And I was just like, I love this. I don't know.
Yeah.
When I heard him in the cut, I was like, oh man, we got some Virgin sounds in there.
That's funny. They're a funny bunch. Same with Foley people.
Right.
Foley
Yes.
people,
Foley. I love Foley. I wish in my next life I'll be a Foley artist.
So for people, because everyone, unless you've taken the tour at Warner Brothers, a lot of people don't know what Foley artists do. I mean, you've probably seen them on TV. And you see their work and you hear the work all the time.
Yeah.
What?
Basically they're responsible for any kind of physical sound that a actor would create, whether it's clothes wrestling, footsteps, that sort of thing. The kind of easiest explanation is, even though nobody has a phone anymore, a real phone, is that if a ringing phone, somebody picked it up, the sound of the phone ringing would be the sound effects editor, whereas the sound of the phone coming off the cradle and being put to your head would be done by a Foley person.
Yeah, so, it's a lot of fun. They're Foley artists. They're still doing their thing. A lot of like sound houses.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. For docs, they just do both. It's one person that does both. Like
sure.
But yeah.
And you're gonna become a Foley artist in your next.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
I want to be like in sand pits and like have all these weird things around me and just like walk around.
Well, and it's funny how they come up with the sounds, right? Whether it's whether they're looking for breaking bones or whatever they need to do. It's where that sound actually comes from in the end it can be quite.
Do yourself
hysterical.
a favor and go on YouTube and watch Foley artists work. It is the most incredible, interesting thing. So then you got the sound spotting.
Yeah, so that's the sound spotting. So by the end of watching the show with everybody, like beginning to end, they all go off and take whatever notes they've wrote down and basically do their work. The dialogue person would go through the original audio, flag anything that needs to be replaced in ADR or looping, and then the sound effects editor is obviously adding in all the sound effects. And that's essentially that end of the sound editorial. The same with the music. You watch the show beginning to end. Sometimes producers want to do it as a separate session, whatever works. And then same thing. The composer goes away and with knowing that they want music here, there, and runs for this long, and the tone of it, what kind of emotion they're trying to get out of it, that sort of thing. And then as well, you do a VFX one where through your offline edit, you flagged where all the VFX shots are going to go. And then
simple things like even like replacing a green screen, or as much as like, oh, you need a big old explosion or something here. Like anything that's going to be a visual effect that you're not going to be able to do with the colorist. They got to go through these places.
So the same thing, you watch it through and just something like visual effects, you might just jump to whatever the next spot is that's calling for it. But and just talking it out. And again, they walk out of there with their marching orders and go and create. And
that's why it's important to get locked cuts, because they're going to be doing all their work to this specific
cut. That specific cut with those time code numbers. And yes, you're not allowed to change them.
Don't change anything. Okay, so then do you have when do you have to worry about spotting stuff on?
Oh, all the time. Something that's like low audio or, whatever, this picture is washed out, or whatever. So I like to go into those sessions. I have spreadsheets for everything. So
I love it.
I have my sound spreadsheet. I'll have my color spreadsheet. And obviously, with docs, I don't know if they do this. Maybe they do this with scripted, but, you tend to send the film and they look at it. So they have their own notes or questions for you. So I just like to go, depending on time, if we have an hour or 2 hours, depending on what we have, I just go through my notes, with the time codes, right? Because you can't change the time codes.
Nope.
And just say, okay, this is this area. Can we brighten? What can you do here? I don't know, whatever I say. I talk weird. So anyways, I just make try to, convey what I want. And then they go away and do it. But the point is, all these people are professionals. So they're trying to just give you what you want, and they're trying to do their work as professionally as possible. But when they come back with what they've done, I feel like don't expect it to be 100% perfect. It's like, you're working with great people. It's still going to be 80% there.
You're still going to have to
go back and tweak and whatever. And it's based on communication or...
Right, because no one's in your head.
No.
Exactly. And you, as a showrunner, as a director, as a producer, you want to get the thing to where you need to get it to. And that everyone's used to getting notes. Everyone's used to getting thoughts and adjustments and those kinds of things. It's just part of the game. It's not a big deal.
So you got to be that kind of a person that you're open to notes and open to giving notes, open to getting things that are not 100%, but it's getting there, and just being encouraging and if something is totally going off the rails, like being able to communicate that and course correct. So you're not wasting everybody's time and money.
Yeah.
Because if something is totally not working, you got to figure out how to get around that and get the ship going in the right direction.
So do they send you things to listen to prior to the sound mix?
Sometimes, if I'm interested in a section, yes. But, usually I like to go in day one, boards comes up. Sometimes I bring in other folks too, like if I'm working with a composer, I'll let them come in or some other folks, and we just listen to them, and then we just go through it beat by beat. Yep. I'm fixing sound beat by beat.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or not fixing, because I'm not saying that they're doing a bad job, but I'm like checking off. Okay, that's great. That's good. It's beat by beat.
It's not crazy. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
but I love it. I love that because for me, like when I get to a mix, like, and we'll talk real quickly about what mixes are. But when I get to a mix, I love it because I'm just like I've been in the sound spotting. I've been into a place where we've done the music stuff, and this is my usually not my first time hearing anything, but like my first time kind of seeing it all and hearing it all with the mixer having done all the work to make sure that certain things are loud in the right places and quiet in the right places, and you've got the Foley in there and you've got the ADR, whatever. It's just like it's all mixed together now. You finally got your gumbo. Like this is like boom, here it is. So I love that moment because I feel like this is, especially if you've already got your color corrected version of the thing and you're watching it on a big screen and you're seeing it all. It's just like it's all here. Especially if you've been working on it for years.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's quite the moment.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Just a quick note. In theory, you've pre-approved, like signed off on the music from the composer before he delivers it to the stage as well.
Exactly. Yes. Usually what happens is like when the music composer goes off, or even the music supervisor, they'll, after you talk in the sound span, they'll come back and like, hey, I've got this. If they're good, what they'll do is they'll send it to you with layered on the picture, so you can kind of see it, what it looks like with the picture. You can give notes based on what it looks like. They can make adjustments, and then by the time you get to the mix, everything has been hopefully approved, and now you're hearing it all together, and you're still going to be making adjustments.
Yeah, because sometimes I like those handles. Sometimes I like all those other handles in there and all that, because sometimes, because in the mix you get to hear everything.
Exactly.
And you can make those together. And you can make those decisions, what you want to hear more and what you want to hear less, and what you want it to fix in terms of the sound, or what you don't want at all anymore.
Yes.
Right.
So I'll also say to people, I was like, I like this. Have this close by. Have something else close by. Or I like this right now, but I might want to cut it once we get to the mix. So I'll always say it's always better in the mix to have more of what you need, so that it's hard to make it on the spot. But if you already have it, it's easy to take it out. So I always tell people, just like have more than what you need for the mix. Don't go overboard and make people do a bunch of work you're going to cut.
No.
But if you're kind of like still in a place where you're like, I don't know yet, I need to hear everything together, it's okay to say like, listen, I don't know yet. I just want to hear it all together and decide.
Yeah, especially those, I find the hardest thing, is, working through those transitions, like music and transition. Yeah. Know when to fade in or fade out or whatever you want to go, dissolve, whatever. Yeah. Like those moments, like you can argue with your, like, no, what kind of cut you want it to be. You want it to be like a S cut, L cut. You can do that in the mix, like, and those decisions make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Transitioning from one scene to the next. So it's that. And you want to be able to have, if somebody is scoring something and, you're going into a transition and the music stops right here, and you kind of need it to bleed over into the next scene, right?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do if you don't have it in the mix? So, I like to have everything there.
Have everything.
Yeah.
For people that don't know what the mix is, usually you get together, producers, showrunners, usually the people who are responsible for the sound edits and dialogue. Everyone kind of gets together and they will.
Your network people.
Not always anymore, but usually they try to be.
They try to be. Yeah.
The last
it's
couple
changing a little bit for sure.
I haven't been seeing my network people.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
But usually, but historically, it's been like the time everyone gets together. Usually, there used to be sandwiches and people would eat food and hang out. We don't have budget for sandwiches anymore. That stuff's not happening.
That all dried up.
The sandwich budget's gone. But people are usually, it's like a time to kind of like watch it all together, and hopefully, if I don't know, do the post supervisors try and get the visual side of it done so that the mix can be the last thing? Like how does that work over?
Yeah, well, both processes are certainly running in tandem, like in parallel. And if you're organized and everything has come together as planned. That for that final playback, you have the final colored credits, everything on screen.
It would be nice, and it doesn't always work though, because like I said, everyone's working at the same time.
Visual effects are traditionally extremely late.
Yeah, that's why when you said that, I was like, you're those people.
You're waiting for some stuff.
Yeah.
You're always waiting for some stuff. But it's nice to be there and hear everything, and then what we usually do, well, it's depending on if it's a shorter thing, sometimes you'll watch the whole thing and then you'll make notes and you kind of go back and do little things here and there. Sometimes if it's a longer thing, you'll just kind of stop and start as you go, or you'll watch chunks and then you'll kind of do notes. And so that's kind of the process. And I think it's important to be, especially as the showrunner, to understand what you're looking for, understand what you want. If something's not going the way you want it to be, like have the people you trust kind of explain to you like how things work. But sometimes you might have to do a little fighting for something if you want it, but also be open to the suggestions of the people who are there and working with you.
Yeah. And being okay to be wrong, right? Yeah. Like, a lot of times I am wrong, like even in the mix, even though that I see, that's my spot. But, sometimes it's like, no, you want it too loud or you want it too soft. And, and then you just realize like, oh, that person is right. Because you're hiring the best people, who know how to do the thing, right? So you could be as creative as you want, but at the same time, if that's what they do, every single day.
Trust them.
Trust them, right?
Hopefully everybody's valuing the collaboration aspect of it all, right?
Yeah. So this is, as a showrunner, usually this is kind of like where I'm kind of like, all right, see it on TV later. And then David's like, all alone for this. And we don't have a ton of time, unfortunately, but like you want to kind of run down some of the stuff that happens after the mix and after the color correction. After that stuff is like you've married the audio and the visual, and you've got this thing. There's still a lot of things to kind of like deal with. Like
there's a few for sure.
Credits, there's a lot of different.
Like you say, they have picture and sound have been married together, and that's your master element, and then that is like a finished, completed episode, like credits, color timing, like you
don't even try to unlock it now.
It happens. And then so from there, it usually goes out for closed captioning and descriptive video, which is an audio track describing what's going on visually. And those are usually an outside vendor that does that work, as well as a QC, quality check, where some poor sod has to sit there and stare at the thing. I think a lot of it's technical now and AI driven. But they're literally watching the master on a high-res screen.
And what are some of the things, because that's just happened to us in the past, what are some of the things that a QC might come back to you with?
A lot of like technical things like video blanking and that sort of stuff. Blowing pixels from your camera footage.
Yeah. There's a fly on the screen. Did you mean
that flies. The ever popular boom mics and camera crew tape on the floor, like for the actor marks, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It gets missed. The Game of Thrones coffee cup. That was probably intentional, but who knows?
I have some friends who worked in that show, so I always ask them. I was like, I had some friends from the art department. They were like, it was so messy. It was so crazy that day. We can get into that another time.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's kind of it. And the same with the sound. Any faults? That's a lot of technical faults, but they can flag things like sync issues. If you're doing ADR and stuff, sometimes it's not always bang on sync-wise visually. But a lot of it's just kind of numbers that exceed what it's supposed to be, and or just stuff that was missed in production.
Okay.
That's still on screen.
So then QC captions.
In theory, by then all your licenses and everything have been signed and paid. Music licensing drags out forever, and that can really drag, put the brakes on stuff. If you're well prepared and I've been chasing that stuff for a while, then hopefully you get it all pulled together. But that's basically it. Oh, and the other thing is, of course, an as-produced script, which, again, you give it to somebody else, and they will go through and a lot of times take the original shooting script and do a verbatim word for word.
Make the adjustments of how things.
Yeah, because if you move scenes around, that sort of thing, and each line is usually time coded again, time coded, and that you give that to the people that have the foreign distribution, because they use that to do the dubbing into different languages and that sort of thing. And then there's a music cue sheet, which is that lists all the music cues, and then that gets submitted to the rights agencies and goes into.
So there's a little bit of
pipeline
work
there.
after I leave.
Yeah, there's a bit.
The composers always say, "Oh, I'm going to get it done." Right?
Yeah. But so it's your QC report, your as produced script, your music cue sheets, the fully executed licenses for whatever it is you bought. I think that's kind of it.
Do you have to do E&O at that point, or
on TV? That's usually covered. I guess as the cuts are going through.
Okay.
Usually BA person, or sometimes even you send it to the lawyer specifically, and they'll flag anything.
Yeah, we usually are doing that during fine cut or proposed lock. Usually, get that stuff out of the way.
Yeah, because if there's something in the shot that that picture on the wall or whatever that wasn't cleared, that can be a headache. And again, individual effects and that kind of stuff to fix. But yeah, they're way more diligent about that than it used to be. I think the lawyers and or the insurance companies are way squeakier wheels than they used to be.
Oh boy, and then you deliver a big old thing to the broadcaster, and then they put it on the televisions.
Yeah. So a typical delivery. Well, nowadays it's kind of all incorporated into one file with. Obviously all your visuals, but then like your stereo mix, a 5:1 mix, M&E tracks, which is essentially the mix minus any dialogue, and they would use that to do any foreign versioning,
the dubbing and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. For years, those were separate elements, but now it seems that everything gets rolled into 15 tracks on a QuickTime.
God dang.
Yeah.
Textless versions.
And then at the end of it, normally you put it at the end. Sometimes some places want a whole separate master. Is anything that has text on screen in the body of the show. You take those original shots, color corrected shots, minus the text, and stick them onto the end of the show, like 30 seconds after the last credit, kind of thing.
Everybody wants something.
Well, it's all part of creating the foreign versions, right?
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to have a couple of shows be dubbed in different languages, and it's always like trippy to me.
Yeah.
Seeing it in a different language. But it's always like but you're like, oh, that's cool. How did that happen? There's a whole process.
There's a whole machine.
Do we miss anything?
I
don't know. I mean, we probably did, but there's a lot of there to give.
I would just say for you're talking about the transcript or for the show, for documentaries or unscripted shows, you usually have to do an annotated script or transcript.
Oh, really?
That means showing where all your sources are from.
Ooh, you got to do homework.
Right? So you can't just say, oh, no, that's real. This person said that. That's real. No, you have to, like, certain things you have to show where the source came from, et cetera, et cetera. So that actually gets worked on from probably the first cut that you have.
Oh, wow.
You do your transcript of the show. You have to make sure that everything is, tracked properly, and they have like links to where the sources are.
Girl,
some doc programs, not all, but most are going in that direction.
Well, that's good though. I'm glad they're doing that because it helps me feel good about the docs actually doing the work.
Yeah,
to make sure there's truth being told. There's no truth in my shows. Just nonsense.
Even credit lists nowadays, which we didn't really touch on too much, but even credit lists typically now seem to have whatever the contract language is, like a separate column listing what the obligations are for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of...
That's another 90-minute show.
Yeah. And then logos and unions and guilds.
Yep.
All those being put onto there's a lot.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about credits, but they're a huge headache. Generally not a showrunner's problem, but a production company. Certainly I've been dumped with them many times. Now, probably in the last 5 years, though, the production companies are way more involved and actually doing them. I'm sure they've been burned enough that they take it on. But credits are.
They are a headache.
No one leaves enough time for the creation of them.
Start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning. I, as a showrunner, I do like to go through the credits, and because I've had that in the past where I've not gone through the credits, and then like something happens where like I see something that's wrong. Or
it makes playback.
Yeah, and then I was like, why is this happening? What's going on here? So I try to look at them. It's so funny because recently I got credits for something I'm working on, and they were amazing. They were all the spellings were great, and even the ones that I wasn't sure I checked, and they were absolutely perfect. There was only one name that was spelt wrong, and it wasn't the person who did the credits, but it was the post-production supervisor.
Oh.
And I was like, wait a second. The one name we got.
Hopefully that gets caught.
I caught it, and I was like, what? I think this is how this person's name is spelled. And they're like, oh, okay, got it. And I was like, and I told the person, I was like, hey, just so you know, we almost spelled your name wrong in the credits. And they're like, I wasn't even checking them. I was like, I know, I got your back.
Yeah.
So funny.
Oh, people get so upset when, it's just, you never
Well,
get
this is the thing, right?
Does your name get spelled wrong? Because I'm sure people write husband instead.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of husbands. It's because it's very time consuming to go through them. Like literally, you're line by line checking everybody's spelling. And if you bump on a name, I try to go to IMDb or whatever and just try to see if you can flag, whether it's right or not. Not that your IMDb is perfect either, but it's enough for a feature, which can, if you have 1,200 VFX artists from India, the spellings and things are just, and nowadays in Canada, any spelling of a name is potential, right? It's a very diverse group. So, husband is not, or Huband's not that rare a name in the grand scheme of confusing names. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could talk for another 20 minutes about credits. Ms. Alison Duke, any last words for our hopeful showrunners?
Just try to be as organized as possible,
and trust your people.
Yeah.
Because they're all professionals. As I said in our previous ones, resist the urge to direct the finale.
Yeah.
It creates a post logistical nightmare.
Be there for your team.
Be there for your team.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like you say, it's you got to keep everybody happy and motivated. And if you're a crazy showrunner, fish rots from its head.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. All right. Thank you both so much for being a part of this podcast. We did it. Post-production. Everyone knows everything now.
My pleasure.
They'll never have any more questions. Big thanks to my guest, Alison Duke, Dave Huband. This has been another episode of the Showrunner Podcast. So we'll check out some other ones. Thanks.
Self-help seminars. Hold yourself up with pride and spread love if you get involved. If you're looking where the truth lives, I can promise that you'll never find hubris. But we know that we cold and it's a fact, no cap. Sound days going stupid like.